Hello and welcome to this session brought to you by BIM Harambe Africa. This session is titled Successful BIM Strategies for Integrated Project Delivery. My name is Nnamdi Anombem and I currently serve as BIM Manager at PG Design Studios. PG Design Studios is an award-winning client-centric architectural firm in Waterloo, Ontario. I have over 20 years of experience in the AEC, that's the architecture, engineering, and construction industry. And I'm currently registered as an architect in the Nigerian jurisdiction, and I am currently pursuing registration with OAA, the Ontario Association of Architects. I hold a PMP designation from the Project Management Institute, and I am also Autodesk certified professional. Now, before I continue, I will have to give this legal disclaimer about the presentation you're about to see. The information contained in this presentation is informational and offered for educational purposes only. Although some aspects of this presentation may refer to contracts, nothing contained within the presentation may be construed to constitute legal advice. Always consult an attorney qualified in the area of law relevant to your specific issues. The learning objectives for this presentation is not to explore in depth the processes required to procure an IPD, an integrated project delivery project, but rather to highlight how to leverage BIM in order to improve project success. So again, we're not going to take a deep dive into IPD at this time, but rather explore how BIM and IPD are a perfect combination to ensure that you can improve success and have better outcomes for these types of projects. Okay, we're going to jump straight in and talk about what is integrated project delivery. Now, my favorite definition for integrated project delivery is from the American Institute of Architects, the AIA. They have a document called the IPD Guide, and it defines integrated project delivery as a project delivery approach that integrates people, systems, business structures, and practices into a process that collaboratively harnesses the talents and insights of all participants to optimize project results, increase value to the owner, reduce waste, and maximize efficiency through all phases of design, fabrication, and construction. Now breathe. That's a lot of information to actually take in. And for some people, this definition leaves them a bit cross-eyed. So we're going to simplify it. What exactly does IPD mean? IPD, simply stated, is all the project stakeholders working in a highly collaborative environment. They're working together with mutual respect and trust throughout the complete life cycle of a facility. A facility refers to whatever that project is, whatever the outcome of that project is. It can be a building, it can be a road, it can be any type of infrastructure project. It really doesn't matter. But everyone working together to achieve better project outcomes. But how does this differ from the traditional means of delivering projects? Well, with IPD, the key is you have early stakeholder involvement and you leverage on the expertise of all the stakeholders and while being guided by the principles of trust, transparency, collaboration, open information sharing, a shared risk and reward system, and adoption and leveraging on technology to improve project outcomes. Now, some benefits of IPD um, to the owners, constructors, and to the designers. They're all different things. To the owners, it streamlines project communication, which allows owners to make better business decisions. It allows the team members better understand the owner's desired outcomes, budgets, etc., which will improve the possibility of project success throughout the life cycle of the facility. For the constructors or the builders, it allows them to contribute their expertise in very early in the design process. Typically, you would not include your constructors early on in your design process, but IPD aims to change this because the early participation of your constructors provides the opportunity for better pre-construction planning by leveraging on their experience and knowledge. It helps to improve pre-construction planning and gives the constructor a more rounded understanding of the design. This in turn allows for resolution of design-related issues very early, and it improves cost control and budget management, which again in turn results in better project outcomes. For the designers, IPD means something also different. It allows for the designer to benefit again from the early contributions of the constructors and other stakeholders. More knowledge can only be a good thing. There are guys that are on site. These are not college degree holders, but they've built buildings all their lives. And just them looking at your layouts very early on and leveraging on their knowledge will actually help you make better design decisions, especially during the design phase. This results in more accurate budgeting, better value engineering, and resolution of issues prior to construction. Now, traditional project delivery versus project delivery on IPD projects can clearly be illustrated with this chart. And the differences can really be categorized into differences in teams, how teams are created and maintained, differences in processes, differences in how risk is managed, differences in how compensation rewards are managed, differences in agreements and contracts, and of course, differences in communications technology. So, with teams, the traditional project delivery approach treats the teams as fragmented and only assembled when they are needed, or assembled with the minimum number of team members. But with an IPD project, you have an integrated team entity composed of key project stakeholders. They are assembled typically very early in the process, and the whole team communicates openly and works collaboratively. We avoid all the politics. We avoid all the who's in, people trying to lord it over everyone else. We work together to achieve a good project outcome. Now, in terms of the processes, the traditional project delivery method is more linear. Um, it's distinct and segregated. Knowledge is only gathered as needed. Information is hoarded. And then you have silos of knowledge and expertise. So your guy who is an expert in plumbing doesn't speak to anyone else. He waits till he's received drawings on site, and then he starts to say, this is not going to work. Or, oh, these drawings are not properly coordinated. His knowledge, the knowledge that he has gathered over years of experience, is not brought to bear during the design process. But with IPD, the process is concurrent, it's multi-level, so everyone is involved. And then we leverage on the early contributions of knowledge and expertise. Information is openly shared, and there's stakeholder trust and respect. So everyone trusts the information from each stakeholder. It's a shared trust system. Now, with risk, in a traditional project delivery setup, risk is individually managed and transferred to the greatest extent possible. No one wants to manage risk. It's not my job. It's not my scope. I really don't want to think about it. But with IPD, since we're all working collaboratively, the risk is collectively managed and appropriately shared. Again, this is because people have access to all the information. No one is hiding anything. With compensation and rewards, in the traditional sense method, it's pursued individually, and you want maximum return or minimum effort. It's usually first cost based. But with IPD, team successes are tied to the project success. It's value based, which means essentially we sink together or we swim together. And more often than not, when you're talking about proper IPD project, you tend to swim rather than sink. With agreements and contracts, the traditional project delivery encourages unilateral efforts and to allocate and transfer risk. We're not sharing any information. It's all about me. It's all about being in my silo and doing only what I need to do. With the IPD system, we encourage, foster, and promote and support multilateral open sharing and collaboration, and we share the risk amongst all the parties. Now, the next piece is very important. It might be the most important of all of the differences between both systems and where the meat of our lecture is coming from. With the traditional project delivery, it's paper-based, it's two-dimensional, it's analog. But with the IPD projects, it's digitally based, it's virtual, and it's data-driven BIM, 3D BIM, 4D BIM, 5D BIM. You are no longer driven by drawings. You are driven by data. And that is a huge shift in the way projects are procured and delivered. BIM, what is Building Information Model? Now, for such an august assembly, I know a lot of you have heard some of these definitions before. BIM is one of the buzzwords in the AEC industry now, but I find more often than not that people really don't understand what BIM is. So let's start with the official definition of BIM. BIM, or Building Information Modeling, is a digital representation of the physical and functional characteristics of a facility. A BIM model is a shared knowledge resource or information about a facility, forming a reliable basis for decisions during its life cycle, defined as existing from earliest conception to demolition. Again, breathe. Sometimes the official definitions are so technical that people lose the crux of what they are trying to say. So, how would I define BIM? Very simply, I would say BIM is a data-rich model that represents a facility. A facility, again, being anything that you choose, you intend to construct. It can be a building, it can be infrastructure projects. It really doesn't matter. It is a facility, and you are leveraging on the information contained in that model in order to achieve defined goals and deliverables. Now, since the model is embedded with both the physical and functional characteristics of what it's supposed to represent in real life, objects in the model will behave in the computer the same way they would if they were built. So a wall, for instance, would have the physical and thermal properties, bearing capacity, thickness, height, width. It will have all those parameters, and you can run that information against simulation software and see the performance of that component, of that wall, for instance. You could query your model in different ways. If you have a three-dimensional model, and please, you have to understand that BIM is not 3D. I've seen definitions where people go, oh, BIM is all about 3D. BIM is not about 3D. BIM is not Revit. BIM is not ArchiCAD. BIM is, for lack of a better word, a process. It's a software tool to achieve a goal. Okay? So 3D is just an outcome of, or a byproduct of the way BIM works. So if you have a three-dimensional model and the outcome that you're looking for is drawings, you want plan drawings. Taking your 3D model and cutting that 3D model at 1200, 1.2 meters from your reference plane, from your floor plane, will give you a plan view. Standing outside your model on the south face and looking directly at your model will give you a south elevation. And you can query this model for information. How much less artificial light will I require in this space if I increased my window sizes by 30%? Because the model simulates real life scenarios, it would give you that answer. How much bearing capacity will my columns have if I increased or decreased the sizes by 5%? How much concrete is contained within my structure? That way I can take this information into my costing module and make a business decision as to whether to build a building with cast-in-place concrete or precast concrete. How much more rainwater can I capture if I adjust my roof slopes by 2%? You're just leveraging the model for information in order to make better business decisions. So BIM on the whole assists the entire project team to reduce uncertainty, improve safety, work out problems, and simulate and analyze potential impacts to the project. A project is now no longer driven by drawings. It is driven by a data-rich model. Now, with IPD and BIM, are they the new power couple? We know that both IPD and BIM are reliant on information, on a trust system. According to Dr. Joseph Wright of the University of Wisconsin, BIM and IPD are complementary tools. BIM facilitates the integration of information and provides a single platform for the storage and retrieval of data. And integrated project delivery, IPD, provides a framework to integrate the shared goals and values of the project participants. So, in other words, BIM provides the data and IPD manages the data. All built on mutual trust, mutual respect for each party. The BIM model becomes the source of truth for the project. It becomes the source of data for the project throughout the entire life cycle of that facility, right from inception, when the owner sees a property and decides this is what I'm going to buy, to when the property is built, the facility is built, and the keys are handed over to facility management. It's one source of truth. It's one source of data. And since mutual trust and respect for the parties and for the data is the cornerstone of integrated project delivery, it follows that IPD and BIM are a perfect match for each other. They just work well with each other because they are composed of largely the same elements. So, how do we get this done? And also, look awesome doing it. Step one, and I admit this is a bit of a shameless plug, you need to hire or appoint a BIM manager. Now, who is a BIM manager? A BIM manager manages the BIM assets of the organization. On any given day, the BIM manager will not only lead from the front, but also support the use of digital technology on all projects throughout your organization. Now, people have asked me the question, is he an IT professional or is he an AEC professional? And my answer to that question is always yes. He is a bit of both. He's really much a jack of all trades, and unlike the common saying, he's a master of all. He's wise like Yoda. He knows everything. So the title of BIM Manager has been present in the AEC industry for at least a decade, if not more, for all disciplines, for all disciplines in the AEC industry. But even today, we're seeing vastly different levels of BIM being implemented on projects within organizations. In addition to this, there's quite a vast discrepancy between the roles and responsibilities of the individual that holds the designation of BIM Manager, or sometimes they are appointed as BIM Manager because they are the smartest guy in the office or the guy who knows how to use Revit the best or Tekla the best. So a lot of organizations end up investing in this individual with varied or little understanding of what this individual's role actually is. So who is that BIM Manager? Well, in my view, and I know some people from my organization are going to be watching this, the BIM Manager is the poor, unfortunate soul who makes it all happen. He's the person who would be involved in project setup, in template setup, consultant engagement. He might be called upon to do dynamo automation, advanced modeling, a lot of tasks that the BIM Manager has to perform, while also having qualities that make him able to perform those roles. He has to be a people person. He has to be able to engage people. He has to have good oral and written skills. He's not a project manager. Okay, I get that question as well. Is a BIM manager a project manager? The BIM manager is not a project manager per se. He is involved in managing how to achieve the BIM deliverables. Clash detection is a BIM deliverable through collaboration. So the BIM manager has to figure out how to achieve that BIM goal. Energy modeling or other kinds of engineering analysis might be a BIM goal. The BIM manager has to figure out exactly how to get this done. So the BIM manager again manages the BIM assets of the organization, and he leads and supports the use of digital technology on all projects worldwide. There is no way you are going to succeed in an IPD project without having a BIM manager for each of the disciplines. Now, the other thing you have to do is assemble your team and get them engaged early in the project. You need to know your team, vet your team, and let them understand exactly what is expected from them. This leads us into step 2. Create a BIM execution plan. Some people don't think that a BIM execution plan is necessary as part of IPD, but believe me, without a BIM execution plan, you will fail. A BIM execution plan, or BXP as it's sometimes known, is a live and collaborative document. It outlines the vision and procedures for BIM implementation to the project stakeholders. In other words, it tells you who is going to do what is each person going to deliver, and how are you going to get it done. A BIM execution plan now is an essential element of many construction projects, especially for large, complex projects with a number of different parties in collaboration. Now, the next step is to choose your weapons or your tools very carefully. You need to ensure that the BIM authoring and management tools that you select can actually achieve the BIM goals of the project. Now, when defining the BIM goals of the project, they might include things like engineering analysis, which would be structural or energy analysis. It might include clash detection as part of collaboration. It might include visualization, animations. It could include a whole number of BIM goals. So you have to know that the BIM authoring tools that you intend to use can actually achieve those goals. What software are we going to use? If design authoring is a BIM deliverable, what software are we going to use to achieve this? Are we going to use Revit? Are we going to use ArchiCAD? You have to select the software that works for your purposes. Now, the other thing you have to consider is the version of the software that you intend to use. It seems like a no-brainer sometimes that you know exactly that everyone is going to use the same version of the software, but you would be surprised that you start off a project in, say, Revit 2020, and you reach a point where you need to share these files with people, and the people that you're working with tell you, oh, we only have Revit 2019, and it's not in our budget to upgrade to Revit 2020. Or we're using some third-party design software that does not integrate with Revit. So then you're stuck. So this segues into the first two things we spoke about: assembling a team early, and then setting up a BIM execution plan. Because part of what you would do is define the software that you plan to use to procure your project and the version of the software that you intend to use. The other thing that you should do is to establish the means of model and data exchange. We've spoken so much about the information that it's going to be generated from this model, and you forget that not everything talks to everything else. Revit doesn't talk to Tekla. Tekla doesn't talk to ArchiCAD. Nothing is compatible. So how are you going to share models, and how are you going to exchange data? So you might choose, for instance, that you're going to share all your models in the IFC format. IFC stands for Industry Foundation Classes, and it's a neutral platform that preserves model data and the data as well, the information that is embedded in those models. And almost, I believe, all BIM authoring tools are able to import and export IFC files to a fashion. So you need to establish, how are we going to share model information and how are we going to exchange the data. Now, speaking of models, you need to know, are you dealing with a single model or are you dealing with multiple models for your project? For smaller projects, you might have maybe a single model from each discipline. For larger models, for larger projects, you might have multiple models spread out along building types or phases. And that's the way that you have to procure your project. So you have to plan carefully for how the modeling is going to be done. Now, this is a very important step: streamlining your data across disciplines. The I in BIM is the most important aspect of what you're doing. People focus too much on the M, which is the modeling. But if you focus so much on the M without considering the information, you end up with beautiful looking. I've seen some really beautiful looking models, but they're totally technically deficient. They're useless to me. I can use them to create perspective drawings, but to actually do proper data extraction from them, completely useless. So if you have to work in an IPD environment where your BIM model is the source of truth for everything that you plan to do, your data sets need to be consistent across all your disciplines. For example, concrete as a material has to read the same across all your different disciplines. In one of your models, you can't refer to concrete, the materials, as CIP conc, and in another model, refer to it as cast in place concrete. What will happen when you try to extract this data is that it's going to read those two data sets as completely different things. As far as it's concerned, it's not the same material. Yes, you can go, well, if they see either of these, they'll know it's concrete, but that's not the way you should procure your project. Your data sets must be consistent throughout your disciplines. Remember that you're working in a very large system. It's not isolated anymore. This information is probably going to go to your construction team. It might be integrated into other ERP systems. And this is where everything gets confused. You'll spend more time trying to sort and correct your data rather than just making sure that the components within your models are pushing out what is consistent across your models. The 48 divisions from master spec is a good example of a means of streamlining your data sets across disciplines. And as a BIM manager, a lot of your components are sometimes held within your templates. They're contained within your templates. So you have to do some work to make sure that your templates are correct. So everyone is starting with the correct information. You might also want to consider having blank templates and pulling the data from a cloud-based content management system. So that way, all the content, all the information is stored in one place in the cloud and is updated regularly. And people just need to grab the data from up there. A wall is the same wall throughout all your projects because it's pulling that information from one content management system. The next step is to collaborate. Collaborate, collaborate, collaborate. This again is a cornerstone of IPD and BIM. You have to collaborate. Why should we collaborate? Well, the answer is very simple. Enhanced collaboration is pivotal to efficiency. Collaborative working practices, where all design team members are engaged at an earlier stage in the design process and aided by BIM tools and processes, are estimated to save at least 10% of the cost associated with traditional design build projects. You must define how you intend to collaborate and choose the platform that you're going to collaborate in. So, what platform do you use? That's a question. Well, we favored the Autodesk BIM 360 platform because we use most of the products from Autodesk. So it only made sense to collaborate within that platform for ourselves and all the disciplines that work with us. But then you should also work in teamwork for ArchiCAD, for instance, if ArchiCAD is your primary BIM authoring tool. You must collaborate. Without proper collaboration between all the project stakeholders, not only is your IPD dead, but your BIM is dead as well. You will just be setting yourself up for problems during construction. Okay, step 5, coordinate. This goes hand in hand with collaborate. You have to collaborate and then you have to coordinate. With respects to BIM, coordination involves the project team consolidating their project models to analyze their potential clashes and other various issues. This reduces the occurrence of problems during construction as these clashes have already been addressed. So clash detection, again, is a big thing. Is a big buzzword in the industry. Everyone is talking about clash detection. But you have to remember that you have to know that clash detection is a BIM deliverable under collaboration in order to model right. If the people don't know early on that they are going to be doing clash detection, they might not pay the necessary amount of attention to creating that project as they should. So you must coordinate, and your team has to know how they plan to coordinate. So, and they must also know the platform that they're going to coordinate it. So it might be BIM 360 Glue, it might be Navisworks, it might be Revisto, it might be BIMTrack. It really doesn't matter what template, what platform that you intend to collaborate and to coordinate in, but coordination must occur. In an IPD project, this collaboration starts from the very inception of the project by leveraging on the knowledge and expertise of all the stakeholders, the trades, the consultants, the guy on site who only knows how to install insulation or waterproofing will provide valuable knowledge and insights that will lead to better project success. So again, you must collaborate and you must coordinate, two big C's, and you must choose the platform where you intend for this coordination to happen. Okay, you can collaborate or coordinate in BIM 360 Glue, which is pretty much Navisworks online. You can use Navisworks, you can use Revisto, you can use BIMTrack. And again, this ties into how you intend to export your data and your models. Now, step 7, you have to know how you intend to share your data. Traditional project delivery leaves the data in silos, and it only becomes available when requested, or more often than not, it comes late. And late data usually leads to costly rework and changes. The data should be shared, and be shared at a location where all the stakeholders have access to the most accurate and up-to-date data at all times. You're not hiding anything. Cloud-based solutions like Autodesk BIM 360 can be used to provide real-time data, and this data again can be exported to other platforms like Power BI for analysis and business reporting. You have to share this data. Sharing the data is pivotal for BIM success, for IPD success. The data has to be transparent, it has to be available, and it has to be correct. In conclusion, the entire AEC industry is tending towards a more cooperative and non-adversarial relationship amongst the members of the project team. Leveraging BIM for IPD projects will always result in better outcomes, increased value for money, and less waste. Thank you for taking the time to attend this presentation. I'd like to thank the organizers and sponsors for creating this platform to showcase Africa's BIM technology and BIM people. It's an honor to be part of this august assembly. And again, I thank you for taking out your time to attend this presentation. My contact information is on the screen, and I hope that the information was helpful and you have a better understanding of BIM strategies that you can apply to improve project success in your IPD information. Thank you again, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your conference.